When you get a compliment, do you say things like, well, I just got lucky? Or we did so well on that project because, Jane was running it. Or I'm not a really good mom, I've got a lot of help. Well, then you, my friend, may have imposter syndrome. And today I'm going to cover the 5 ways imposter syndrome is hurting all your relationships, and you'll learn my top tips for getting rid of it. I'm Dr. Abby Medcalf. I'm here every week with fabulous videos to help you have really a better life and to feel more connected, more excited, more there in all of your relationships. So please subscribe and hit the bell, give it a like so that more people can get this great information and so that you don't miss a thing. All right, let's get to it. First, I just want to say, what is this? What is imposter syndrome? So way back in my day, in 1978, there were 2 psychologists, Pauline Clance and Suzanne Imes, and they wrote this paper about high-achieving women who felt like they were phonies at work. These women had an underlying belief that they, somehow fooled their bosses or their colleagues into believing they were intelligent, but inside they felt they hadn't really earned their status at their jobs and had just gotten lucky. And Clance and Imes wrote this paper and called it the imposter phenomenon. And since then, it's been renamed the imposter syndrome and applies really to anyone, men or women, who feel like a fake anywhere in their life. And I just want to say that what imposter syndrome really is, it's just a negative thought pattern. When you think thoughts over and over, they become beliefs, and then these beliefs become ingrained as facts. And you act as if these are facts instead of very changeable thoughts, which we're going to talk about today. And feeling like an imposter happens to pretty much everyone when they step out of their comfort zones. And it's estimated that about 70% of people deal with imposter syndrome at some point in their life, so you likely have. And at its core, how I see it, and when I'm going to give you tips later, it's really a mix of anxiety, low self-esteem, and just throwing a different name on there. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about the 5 ways that imposter syndrome is hurting your relationships. And number 1 is you don't trust. Research has shown that people who have imposter syndrome have trouble trusting other people. If you don't trust, you're certainly not going to show vulnerabilities. And that translates into hiding your flaws or trying to hide any, limitations you think you have, and being very sensitive to any feedback from partners, friends, or at work. And maybe any feedback at all just feels like criticism no matter how carefully it's given. So again, one of the big signs that you have imposter syndrome, and it's hurting your relationship to be that way. Number 2 is you doubt those around you. When you have low self-esteem and feel like an imposter, you doubt those around you, and you start to see them more negatively. And it's really for 2 reasons. First, you have a more negative lens kind of overall, so everyone is viewed through that. And second, you doubt them because they trusted you, hired you, or love you. It's the whole I wouldn't want to join a club that would want me as a member thing. I think that was Mark Twain, Groucho Marx. That's been attributed to a lot of people. But and I want to say, if any of these feel like you, I would love for you to give me a "that's me" in the comments below. And hey, join the rest of us. All right. Number 3 is you sabotage. So a lot of the same research I'm talking about shows that those people with imposter syndrome view their work and their personal relationships as less stable than they actually are. You then become fearful of being abandoned, rejected, fired. Your anxiety amps up, and you might unconsciously find ways to quit your job or to leave that relationship so that you leave before they do, kind of thing. You quit before they fire you. Or you think so much about your partner leaving or your job firing you that you look for constant approval. And no matter what your partner, boss, or friend, or whoever does, it's sort of never enough. And you're always looking for more assurance. And this is crazy because it becomes exhausting to those around you. And then it often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I know, it's so crazy. You're thinking it so much and you're having these actions, and people get so sick of it that they do fire you, they do break up with you, even though that wouldn't have been what would happen. And really deep down, you believe you're not good enough for your partner or that they can do better than you. So your subconscious, your unconscious thoughts and actions are what that subconscious is what's driving everything. You start overthinking things, you start seeing things that aren't there. I know he's cheating on me. I know my boss is just waiting to promote Dave over me. You start getting into crazy land, I say with love. All right, number 4, you're angry, blaming, and resentful in general because you're constantly looking for outside validation to feel good about yourself, and because those outside assurances are never enough, you end up feeling angry, resentful, and blaming those around you, even when you don't realize it. It's not generally conscious. You just might notice you feel a lot of resentment and don't even realize that that's a problem, but it is. Your internal dialogue, how you talk to yourself, becomes very focused on other people being the issue with why you're not happy or succeeding. And you find yourself really preoccupied with what others are doing instead of looking at your own behavior. And number 5, the 5th way that imposter syndrome is really hurting your relationships is that you settle. At work, you might settle for a job that isn't, reaching for the stars because you don't want the attention. They might expect too much. They might realize I'm an imposter. If you do take on a higher level job, you might put up with bosses that are abusive or treat you poorly. In a love relationship, you might settle for someone who's also maybe abusive or who's dependent on you and needs you. They'll never leave me is what's going on in your head. And you might take a job or be with a partner who's, I'm going to say this as gently as possible, below your level. And I know that sounds bad, but I want you to realize what I mean. Maybe it's a job that's really below your skill set, or maybe it's a person who's not as emotionally intelligent as you, or doesn't have the same ambition, or even the same hygiene level as you. I've seen all of it. So all of these might happen if you have imposter syndrome. And let me just say, so if you want to take all this, so everything, if all this matches, and you want to take this learning to the next level, then you can get my promised tips. Then I have my top tips for getting over your imposter syndrome. You can download those below the video. There'll be a link down there. And, it's free. Yes, you will get on my mailing list, and you can always unsubscribe. My mailing list is really a weekly email from me that's really about kind of my life and lessons I've learned, and it's really meant to be an inspirational, educational, weekly little thing in your inbox. It's relatively short and takes a few minutes to read, and it's really just meant to give you love, to just keep you on course and keep you where you want to be. That's it. I'm Dr. Abby Medcalf. I help people create lasting change in their relationships and really think differently so that you can be happy and connected. I'll see you next week.